Man, UFC 317 was supposed to be the one. The return of Khamzat Chimaev and a wild middleweight title scrap against Dricus du Plessis. International Fight Week, fireworks, drama, chaos, and now it might not even happen. With Dricus reportedly injured, the main event is in serious jeopardy. And just like that, the entire MMA world is spiraling, trying to figure out what the UFC is about to do next. Do they book an interim title fight? Do they push Khamzat to Abu Dhabi again? Is International Fight Week about to flop? But here's the thing, I actually think that this could have been the best thing to happen to UFC 317. Because if the UFC are smart, and I'm talking about really smart, they'll realize that this has just opened the door to something even bigger, something massive, something that the people have been begging for since February. I'm talking about Ilia and Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. Yup. Let's talk about why Dricus pulling out must have just gifted us the Superfight that we didn't even know we needed. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share so you can help me reach 2,000 subscribers by May. I'll deeply appreciate you. And make sure you join the official UFC Discord, link in the description. Alright, so look, let's get straight into it. The UFC 317 main event is in jeopardy, and I'm talking about the long-rumored matchup between Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. Might not even be happening after all, because Dricus du Plessis is apparently injured, and yo, dude, this absolutely sucks. I mean, dog, there's absolutely no denying it either. I was beyond extremely hyped for this fight as well, but you know what? Honestly, when I sit and ponder with this a little more, I realize that this actually might be a blessing in disguise. Because you see, with Dricus still knocks out, the UFC have just acquired a golden opportunity sitting right in front of them. And it's a fight that's even way bigger than Dricus versus Khamzat could have ever been. I'm talking about the long-awaited Superfight between Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. And so you see, right now the entire MMA community is in a bit of a scramble. I mean, I've just been seeing people on social media throwing around ideas like, let's make an interim title fight. Put Khamzat in there with Caio Borralho. What about Imavov? Like, man, this is absolute chaos, doc. And you see, I've actually got a few qualms with those statements. I mean, Khamzat versus Caio? I promise y'all, that's not as big of a banger as people think it is. Like, dog, these two trained together not too long ago, and from the footage and the behind-the-scenes talk, it was pretty clear who the dominator was. Spoiler alert, it was Khamzat. There's just no drama, no real storyline, and not much to sell, honestly. Now, what about Khamzat versus Imavov? Sure, it's a more competitive bout on paper, but let's not forget that both Khamzat and Imavov are boys. Like, I'm talking about they're actually friends. I just don't think that they'd want to fight each other unless it's for the actual undisputed title. Again, there's just no juice behind this matchup as well. Plus, knowing how the UFC operates, they'll probably just delay Khamzat until October in Abu Dhabi anyway. I mean, that is his usual stomping grounds. Not to mention, it just makes more sense to rebook the Dricus versus Khamzat fight for that card rather than throw together some half-baked interim title bout, you know? So, with all that being said, why not go bigger? Why not finally book Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria for International Fight Week? I mean, this is a fight that's ready. I mean, we're talking about Ilia Topuria here. The man hot off, knocking out two featherweight legends in back-to-back succession within a 7-month time span in Alexander the Great, Volkanovski, and Max Blessed Holloway, all at 27 years of age. He's undefeated, he's a superstar, and according to Ilia El Matador himself, the UFC promised him a lightweight title shot if he were to vacate his featherweight belt. And so, if that's true, then what are we waiting for? I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Even as an Ilia diehard, I'm not against Ilia fighting a top 5 lightweight first. Like, I totally get the argument. Some people want to see him, quote unquote, earn it in the new division before getting the title shot. But honestly, if the UFC made that promise to Ilia El Matador, and if they want to capitalize on Ilia's momentum while it's still red hot, then now's the time to go all in. No one's saying that the guy is being quote unquote gifted anything. He's the featherweight champ who just starched out 2 of the greatest 145ers of all time. He's not skipping the line, he is the line. And as for Islam, I mean, he does need a dance partner too, right? The Charles Oliveira-Charles do Bronx rematch isn't generating much buzz. The Justin Gaethje fight's cool, but Gaethje not too long ago just got flatline stiffened by Max Bless, who was fighting at 145. Well, not anymore, but at the time he was a 145er coming up, so you get the gist. Armand shit his pants, Chandler's still in Connor's DMs, and Dustin's about to retire. Islam versus Ilia just has that magic, dog. It's fresh, it's high stakes, it's champ v champ, and it's the kind of thing that'll make International Fight Week just feel special. But you see, here's the thing that'll probably be getting overlooked. This fight probably wouldn't have even been considered if Dricus didn't get injured. I mean, the UFC did seem locked in. Like, Dricus versus Khamzat was supposed to be the move. And Islam was probably just gonna fight someone else. And, you know, Ilia was probably just gonna get tossed in there with maybe an Armand Sarukian or a Charles Oliveira-Charles do Bronx or some other top 5 ranked lightweight. But now, with the original main event probably being dead, the UFC needs something big in order to replace it. Something worthy enough of being the International Fight Week headliner. And that's where Ilia versus Islam becomes not just a good idea, but the best idea. And, you know, to be 100 with y'all, this is what the UFC does best. When big fights fall apart, they don't just sit around and do nothing, they pivot and they go big. Think back to other times when injuries forced major changes. How often did we end up with a better card because of it? This is one of those moments. This is a chance to upgrade, to go from just a fun fight with rising stars to an elite, legacy-defining, blockbuster main event. And, you know, at the end of the day, this isn't me hating on Dricus or the original matchup. I was down for Dricus versus Khamzat. Of course I was, just like everyone else was. But when something falls apart, it opens the door for something new. And in this case, that something new might just be the biggest super fight the UFC can book in 2025. That's Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. And this isn't just a replacement, this is an upgrade. A star-studded clash of styles, momentum, as well as legacy. So, yeah, Dricus getting hurt and UFC 317 being in jeopardy still pretty sucks, but if the UFC plays their cards right, then this could be the best thing in recent MMA history so far. But that's all I've got to say for this video. Let me know in the comment section below. What are your guys' thoughts on, these recent events of Dricus du Plessis being injured and UFC 317 being in jeopardy? Do you think that Khamzat should take an interim title fight against either Caio Borralho or maybe a Nasruddin Imavov? Or should the UFC maybe scrap the Khamzat Dricus, storyline altogether, maybe reschedule it for a later date, maybe October in, Abu Dhabi, and instead sub out that fight with Islam Makhachev versus Ilia El Matador Topuria? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. But that about wraps up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.